have had the chance to do it. So
Be a little
good.
bit safer.
How's our staff doing this week?
Good. Getting through that like gray area of midterms and just
Oh,
Yeah, it's at that
loading
point in the semester where I
through
think
the
we're all feeling the extra stress.
halfway there, right?
right.
Yes.
I think it's a good time to have Heather take it away. Go ahead and introduce our guest speaker, Kelly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, our guest speaker is Kelly, as you heard. So a little bit about her. She's originally from Scotland, and she is currently the marketing and development manager at Midwest Food Bank. And so she's kind of going to be talking about what she does there. And she also has a lot of PR experience as well as marketing, fundraising, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So I will let her take it away.
Oh, hi guys. How's everyone doing? Thank you for having me. So it's twice today that my role or my experience has been described as cool. So you guys are going to start giving me an ego. My husband does not think I'm so cool. As Heather mentioned, I am from Scotland. So hence the wee bit. I was going to get really Scottish on you. And if I got really Scottish, it would have been a wee bit about me. But I was like, I'll just keep it at the wee part. So I went to college in Scotland for hospitality management, had worked in bars and restaurants since I was probably about, 9 years old, working in restaurants in the kitchen and worked in every type of bar, hotel, service for years. So went to college, got the hospitality management degree. And then after that decided I was going to go to America. So I'd never been here before, never visited, didn't know anybody, but I figured I'll find a way. So I used to I was from a small village in Scotland. So I would drive to my local town, which was about 20 minutes away, just to go to the public library to use their internet. And I would go there and I would research, and I found a cultural exchange program called Au Pair in America. So basically you come to a country, you get matched with a family, and you live with them and you nanny for them and such. So I did that at 20, had a great experience, met girls from all over the world that are very much my sisters, my best friends. I've traveled all over the world to visit them and vice versa. And so, yeah, I love that. So decided then to go back to college here in New York. I went back for my undergrad in New York for communications and psychology. And then about a year into that, met my husband, and yeah, that was it. So I was only supposed to move here for a year. That was my plan. And then I got sidetracked, and here I am 13 years later, and I have a husband, a 2-year-old daughter, 3 dogs, and 2 cats. So my husband and I lived in New York for a couple of years, and 5 months ago, his parents and sister, everybody moved down here, so we decided to follow, basically. But before that, I had worked in finance for about 6 years. Then I worked for a not-for-profit doing their marketing and communications for 5 years. And then this current role at Midwest Food Bank is marketing, communications, PR, and then development. So kind of like most not-for-profits, you wear multiple hats. Personally, I love to travel. I'm a bit of an adventurer any chance I get. Hence why when I want to pack up and leave and go to Florida, I'm like, sure, let's try it. So we've been down here for, like I said, 5 months or so, and so far loving it. I feel bad because I don't have a picture of my cats. I didn't have one super quick on my phone, so I just threw in, my dogs are always a little bit of favoritism there. So 3 big dogs, and then the 2-year-old daughter, and then this is my husband, Brian. Brian actually is the director of marketing in the enrollment department at FGCU. So he's new to FGCU also. So getting to know the Eagle community. This was as we actually went to the county fair recently. Have you guys been there? Lee County Fair? It was fun. So my role as the marketing and development manager at Midwest Food Bank, like most not-for-profits and most PR marketing roles, you wear lots of hats, right? So there's no simple job description, but it encompasses, again, as you guys maybe have learned and noticed in the industry of PR, for many years, there was this clear distinction where people tried to really make it clear, I do PR and I do marketing and I'm an advertisement. But the shift, I feel, has gone back into that convergence, that integration of those industries. So I really do, and it's true, but there is no typical day for me. Today, my day was all over the place between, I did a newspaper interview, a radio interview, then I interviewed myself, an intern. Then I was on a social media meeting, and that was before I could even get to any of my real work. So some of the tasks that I'm involved in are, I obviously have to develop the marketing plan for the year, right? So all about creating awareness of our mission and and promoting that positive brand of Midwest Food Bank, Florida. I take care of all the grants. I apply for the grants and funding. So that's a big task, kind of finding corporations, applying to their grants, and then obviously the reporting process. For that, I take care of all the PR pieces. So media contacts, press releases, any kind of spokesperson tasks. A lot of it is trying to get the news, local news stations into our warehouse to get coverage of our food and disaster relief efforts. And then I'm very responsible for that overall community engagement and an awareness of what Midwest Food Bank is doing. We do have a corporate office. So I do get to work a lot with the chief development officer there. And we have 2 international locations and 10 US locations. So there's a lot of projects corporate wise that I'm involved in right now. We're making a shift in our Instagram. So that's going to be a bit of a pilot shift. And then some fundraising campaigns sometimes happens at the whole, the entire organization stage of things. And then obviously a lot of things like this, engaging with local colleges, networking groups, schools, and looking for those partnerships. And as you guys know, I recently was at Professor Winton's PR class presenting, and I'm kind of always trying to get out into the community to get to know the community, because I'm new, but also for the community to get to know Midwest Food Bank and myself also as a kind of a professional in the area. Obviously, there's a lot of board meetings. I do, keeping our stakeholders, and that means that's our community. It means our donors. It means our board members, media, keeping all those in the loop. I take care of all the graphic design. I have some interns, obviously, I utilize for that, but graphics is a huge part of it because I also handle the social media. And I'm constantly looking for content and stories and things, but I also have to pair the graphics with that. And then obviously we have tons of vendors and stuff that I'm constantly working with. And then volunteers is a big piece of it. We really utilize a lot of volunteers at Midwest Food Bank, and they put in a lot of great hours. So cultivating those relationships, finding tasks and roles that the volunteers can take on, and really kind of, and whether that's interns or somebody wants to work in the warehouse or somebody wants more of an office component, really kind of cultivating the volunteer opportunities. So throughout lots, probably the last 12 years, all my roles, even in finance, I worked for a wealth management company in New York for 6 years, actually probably longer than 6 years, maybe 7 or 8, before I got into the not-for-profit sector. So PR and communications obviously were always a huge component there. Then I got into the not-for-profit world and did a lot of PR there. And we, in my job there was doing communications and development, but we also launched an LLC employment division, which was basically building a brand from the ground up. So when I tell you I've been involved in every single piece of building that business, I mean every single piece, from the shipping and the warehouse. I was pregnant, my baby was due, and we had a huge order of part of the employment piece of people with disabilities. They made dog treats. So I had managed to get this huge order from QVC, and it had to ship out all these, like 30,000 bags. And I was due my baby that day, but I couldn't leave until I got that that slip from QVC to say the order was received and it was good. And then I was eventually like, okay, can I go have my baby now? So, I mean, you see things all the way right to the end for sure. So throughout the years, I've always kind of been involved with the PR component, marketing and development. That's, again, that accumulation. And what I love about it is the diversity, right? That's why I've kind of chosen to stay in the PR realm of things with as I've continued into different jobs. Like I said, there's no 2 days that are the same. It's definitely in my role or in my experience, it's been a very people-centered job for sure. If you don't like interacting with people, it may not be the best industry, right? There's a lot of connections with media and the public and whoever those kind of your publics are, right? Whether that's your internal employees, your customers, media, donors, whoever, your board. And honestly, the career options have been extremely open, and the PR, having that PR experience has opened a lot of doors for me. And even if there's been a job I took on that I necessarily wasn't qualified for or didn't really have interest for, that having that PR experience has definitely given me a leg up, because again, you learn so many skills in the PR industry that build your confidence and your skill set that will then, fit into many employment situations. And I always tell people, especially with my interns I work with, even if you take an internship or a job right away that you don't necessarily love, it's not your dream job, but take it. If somebody offers you, you take it and you get the experience, right? Build your resume now. And then it also gives you connections. And the best way to learn how you don't like something is try it. And then you know for sure you don't like it. Again, PR, it's super fast paced, right? And again, it goes, as I mentioned, goes into profit, not for profit. And again, it takes you into marketing or communication, advertisement, all those fields, again, I feel are leading back to a convergence, an integrated path in your job role. So you really don't have to think of it as, well, if I do PR, then I'm just stuck in PR, because you really aren't. And when you go into a role, you have a lot of skills that you don't even know you might have, but then you have an opportunity to also bring your ideas and stuff to the table and mold a potential job right into a little bit of a direction you have. So I always like to tell my interns, I was a nanny for an au pair for years. I'm still very close with those 2 kids I nannied for when they were 9. They're now 23. They're like my little sisters. Start networking now, right? You guys obviously are ahead of the game. You're part of the FGCU, FPRA. That is a fantastic start because you're already in that mindset of understanding how important it is to network and kind of start to build that platform. And, when we talk about PR, we talk about that public image, right? That you're constantly communicating to your publics, right? So whether that's your friends, your family, professors, potential employees, you want to start thinking of yourself as a brand. So how are you looking to market yourself now? So, I always say things like your social media. Don't be afraid to have social media. Potential employees will look at it and you should use that to your advantage. So create the brand on there that you want them to see. Let them see your personality, that professional component to it, right? It's not your party pictures, but all the good things that you are doing in college and and friends are important. A company wants to hire somebody that's sociable and likes people and gets along with people. So you don't have to be afraid of posting pictures with your friends or your hobbies, especially LinkedIn. A lot of people think LinkedIn is just a very strict professional platform, but don't be afraid to use that for some insight into what you do in your life outside of your job. But again, use it to your advantage, knowing that they will look at it and post what you'd like an employer to see on there. But start doing that now. It's never too early. it's, obviously you guys are in the FGCU, so hopefully then you maybe go on to join the South Florida chapter. That's a great networking opportunity for references, but then also potential jobs when you graduate, right? Or internship connections. It's never too early to start building your media contacts. You can do that, you search a whole bunch of local news outlets, and there's always an about us or contact us section where you submit a press release or there's an email address. Start building an Excel sheet now of your media contacts. That will help you when you get into a job, if you're responsible for writing and distributing press releases. Your resume, I'm assuming you guys are probably already have a resume together, but constantly check in with it, look at it, update it, keep it growing. Because sometimes it's hard to remember all the great things you did when you go to update it. So definitely keep your resume active and keep updating it. And then do as much as you can. I know it's tough because you guys are on a busy schedule, but with your community, is it volunteer work, right? Or I know you guys have to do service learning hours, which Midwest Food Bank's a great place for that if you want service learning hours. We have a lot of FGC students. Just reach out to me and we'll get you set up. And then again, I mentioned Florida is a great place for networking groups, right? So obviously there's FPR, but there's the local chambers. Look into those, and sometimes there's a student membership will be much, much cheaper than a regular membership. Again, just to network, make some connections. And start gathering in that contact, that Excel sheet, right? References, right? People that you could reach out to as a reference when it comes to a job. A job application will always ask you for references. So start to collect people right now that you think, okay, let me get an email and a telephone number and put them just on my sheet so that I've started to accumulate potential people to ask for when a reference when you come to looking for that PR job. I have a list coming up, but follow industry PR companies, right? If it's PR you definitely want to go into, or whatever industry, whether it's fashion PR, not-for-profit PR, however, start following those companies on Instagram right now. Get to know their culture, especially if you're thinking about applying there. So definitely start to follow them on Instagram or LinkedIn and get to know their kind of culture. I have a list of blogs, podcasts for you guys, but I always recommend that, listening to industry podcasts and blogs. And a big thing I've noticed with my interns, and this is what I used to teach, I don't know if I even mentioned this actually, but I taught in New York. I taught a PR class for about 4 years in New York. And I would make my students do real life practical things. I didn't really enjoy reading out the textbook. It was all great to learn the definitions, but real life practical things, like really pick a topic and write a press release on it. Then, again, just to practice your writing skills, right? Strengthening your writing skills is definitely a tip for young students and young professionals, I would say. And again, get started on that now. And if you think you're not a strong writer, well, then practice. Have somebody, whether it's a mentor or a professor, and take it to them and say, hey, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. I wrote this, I put it together. Any thoughts? Even if it's for your own personal profile, because a lot of the times when you go for a PR job, they will ask you for a writing sample. So definitely start to have some of those gathered and on various topics, right? Graphic design software. I don't know if you guys, Adobe or Photoshop, but Canva is free. That is a great place to practice your graphic design. Again, sometimes they will ask you for some graphic components. Depends on what role your PR role is in there. And then email communication, right? That's an extremely important part of communication nowadays. MailChimp is free. And I used to have my students create an account and learn how to create campaign templates. And it's a fairly user-friendly platform. However, you always just assume you may know how to use it, but until you're put to the practice, right? So start practicing it now. It's a great thing to put on your resume, and for a potential employer to see that you know how to use industry software will definitely put you guys at an advantage when it comes to that kind of interview process. Excel. Do you guys know how to use Excel? So that, I think, has been my biggest surprise with as I've done adjunct teaching, or as I've taken on interns here in New York or here, is Excel. Now, I'm no whiz, I don't need it for math or accounting, but I do use Excel for contacts, and Excel comes into play so much in the office environment. And it's great just even for your personal, learning how to build data, right? Data management is a huge focus in marketing and PR and communication, right? And there's a lot of client management software out there, that you'll learn in a particular, usually every company I've gone to has a different platform, and you learn it. But just Excel is a great place for you to start to just collect your own data and learn how to use that. And YouTube's a great place, right? Or Google. Start to learn the basics with how to use Excel. So that's been a big surprise that I've found, is a lot of students or new graduates don't know how to use Excel, or don't know the full benefits that Excel can offer you in your role. And proofread. Honestly, that is such a tip when it comes to any writing or social media posts, or even an email to your colleagues or your boss or to the media or whoever. Proofread everything all the time. And then think of the things that you're most afraid of, right? And I get this one all the time, is public speaking. Most students, when you ask them, and most people will tell you their biggest fear is public speaking. So practice now, right? Again, just put yourself in small situations where you can practice and improve and test yourself, so that by the time when you come to a job and maybe you say to your boss, oh, wow, I have this great idea of something I'd like to work on. And your boss says, great, present it at the morning meeting in front of the whole team. Now you're like, oh my God, what? And suddenly you're afraid to ever mention ideas again, because you're afraid that you'll have to present them. So you never want to let something that you're afraid of stop your progress in your job. Or so I always like to say, think of what your fear is now when it comes to a potential job, and start practicing right now. And again, the two things I've always got out of students is usually public speaking, or they're not very confident in their writing skills. So it's always good to start those things now, right? And then I always recommend, like I mentioned, follow industry blogs, podcasts, your local news, whatever. So this is just a few PR podcasts. Again, it's a great, driving to work, driving to school, just start listening to that. Just get to know industry language and what's happening in your industry. And again, if it's PR or not, this goes for any industry that you're looking to get into. So those are just some, and I can share, of course, I can share this with Heather and she can distribute it out to you guys afterwards. So that's kind of a little bit kind of where I'm at. And then I just a little bit briefing, because I know like Professor Kennedy, he might not know much about Midwest Food Bank. So Midwest Food Bank, we are a faith-based not-for-profit, right? So we provide food and disaster relief locally and throughout the world. My main role is focused on the Florida division. And I think we're actually up to about 38% of people in the US go to bed on a hungry stomach, which is, it's crazy that in today's age, people are still going to bed hungry. I think in Lee County, we're at 87,000 people face food insecurity. And so that's, I think, about 1 in 5 children, 1 in 5 to under in Lee County. Actually, it's like, 1 in 4 in Lee County alone, right? So really heavy numbers. The unfortunately, the problem of hunger in the world doesn't seem to be decreasing. So we got started. It was in 2003. The Keyser family started this mission on their local farm out in Illinois, working from an old barn, and they saw that need and they wanted to help their community, so began sourcing food and donating it to local partners. This is the old barn that they used to work from. So until now, 2021, we now have 10 US locations and 2 international locations. Fort Myers location opened in 2014, and we recently opened a location in Lake Wales, Polk County in Florida, so Central Florida, just to kind of help with that distribution and mission impact. So we have 4 main programs. Our food pantry, which is basically where we rescue food from large corporations like Kellogg's and Nestle, Tyson, that would otherwise go to waste. And in the US, it's about 40% of food goes to waste. So a crazy amount of food goes to waste in the US. So we send our trucks out and we rescue that food and we bring it back to our Fort Myers location. And when we donate it 100% free to our partner agencies, and that means like your local church, school, veteran support, shelter, mobile kitchen. And every Tuesday, they come to our warehouse and they shop for what they need 100% free. And then they donate that out to the individual families or individual. We have disaster relief. So right now we're working heavily on the Texas relief. Florida just sent 29,000 bottles of water yesterday to Texas. And we're a Salvation Army first responder, which means our trucks can be at the disaster site within 24 hours. We have like a disaster relief box that has about 4 to 5 days of food that will last about a family of 4. Then we have our Tender Mercies program, which is a high protein, high nutritional, like rice and chicken package that we created that works really well in disaster relief situations because you just add boiling water to it. And then we have Hope Packs, and Hope Packs is my favorite program. Hope Packs basically is a pack that we donate to the school, and a child will go home with that Hope Pack every weekend, right? So it ensures that a hungry kid has food over the weekend. And that program got started with a teacher. And we tell the story on the website. A teacher saw a little boy wrapping up his lunch, and when she asked him what he was doing, he said he was taking the food home to his little brother because he knew his little brother wouldn't have eaten. And that teacher reached out to Midwest Food Bank, and that's where Hope Packs was born. When I first read that story, and I remember talking about it in my interview for this job, I got tearful and because I have a 2-year-old little girl, and the thought of not being able to feed her just devastates me. Then I had to go one day, it was like my first week on the job, I had to go out to a large grant foundation, right? I was asking for a lot of money from them to donate to us. And I'm telling this story and same thing, I tear up and I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But I think it helped because it was sincere, and I really, and so anyway, I think it very much helped. The decision for that grant is coming in, and I'm pretty confident in it. But that Hope Packs program is, I love that program. This is just some pictures. This is the disaster box I was telling you guys about, right? So it goes out with various items to a family. That's the rice pack. So again, it doesn't look delicious, right? It's not, but if you've just had your experience a storm and your house blown away, you'll be very grateful to have a nutritious meal to get you through, till you get things figured out. And of course, we do some mobile pantry work too with some of our partner agencies. And again, we couldn't do any of that without our volunteers, right? So we are able to keep our administrative costs to less than 1%, which means 99% go directly to those programs and directly to feeding people, which is 3 times. So we take $1 and turn it into $34 worth of food to give you kind of the example in money terms, right? Which is 3 times of what a not-for-profit can do. And we can do that because we have a huge team of volunteers, right? So Florida alone in 2020 had 800 volunteers that put in, I think it was like the equivalent of 9 full-time paid employees. So if we don't have them, we can't do what we do to the volume we do it at, but also really make sure that when somebody donates, to really make sure that that donation is going directly to feeding hungry people. And I think that's a big difference with Midwest Food Bank. We really do, that money really goes towards feeding hungry people. This is just some warehouse, you know, we have these huge warehouses where we can have packing days, which is again for FGCU students, service learning hours. I always say too, if you have a club, like if the FPRA club wants to just come into a volunteer day, we can organize that. It doesn't have to be on like a Tuesday loadout day. It could be a weekend. We always get local businesses and local clubs coming in to do volunteer. It's a great bonding experience, even if it's not for service learning hours and you want to just come in and I always tell everybody, you know, tell your clubs if you're part of a sorority or a club on campus, encourage them to come in and visit us. This is just our charity Navigator. So we have the 4-star rating every year, which basically is, I'll say, you know, industry proof of our standards and our kind of mission impact. This is the warehouse in Fort Myers. So this big truck here, I love this truck. Her name is, have you guys ever saw That 70s Show? So it's Donna, aka Big Red. So the truck is called Donna because she's Big Red. So our driver Tim and Big Red drove over 170,000 miles in 2020 to we rescued and donated over $52 million worth of food in 2020. Florida alone, this warehouse by itself, $52 million worth of food, rescued and donated to 2.4 million individuals. So again, we have a small staff of employees, but we could not do that volume without our amazing volunteers. This is some of our team. So this is, like I said, our small employee team, and then our volunteers. This is our volunteers at loadout day. So they help the partner agencies load up their trucks. I haven't updated. We just got our 2020 numbers in, so that we're actually up to, obviously COVID, so that's where we're up to that $52 million. So how can you help, right? As a young student, it's not your you know, your purse coins we're after, right? You're just trying to take care of yourself, but there's so many other ways that you can help us. And again, that's coming into volunteer, encouraging your friends to volunteer. So actually I got to update this because our Facebook page closed and we actually just switched to a Facebook group. So I encourage all of you, follow and join our Midwest Food Bank Florida group, and I will accept your invite, because then it's a community discussion group, which means you guys can post in there too. If you come volunteer, you can take pictures, you can post. We do have an Instagram, so I always encourage people to follow that. You know, and then stay up to date with that social media, right? It's where we post our mission. It's where we post all our stories. And yeah, and then we are launching a Become a Fundraiser, right? And this is a great task for some of my interns and for students, but it will be new on the website actually in a few weeks. But it's basically where a student or a volunteer can take on their own fundraiser campaign. And whether that's you want to just do a post on social media, and you don't even have to wait for that. You can literally just go do a post on your social media, you know, put in some facts about Midwest Food Bank, tag our Facebook page, and make it a donation, and just ask people. And you can either make it a fundraiser right there on Facebook, or put in the direct donate fundraiser link, right? And just say to people, hey, like, you know, I've just learned about this great not-for-profit. Here's what they do, and give a little bit of that why. You know, you want to tell people why they should donate to us, and then ask them for a donation. And then maybe you only get somebody donates $5, but it's every little penny helps. And so I always encourage that, right? And then also, internships. You know, I have 3 interns right now, but my door is always open to interview, even if you want a little feedback on a resume, or you want to practice your interview skills, whatever, come on in. And even if you're like, oh, I'd love an internship, but I don't have that much time to offer, but I'm really good with graphics, and maybe I could do something from home for you here and there. It's a great place to start putting things on your resume, right? And to start to build a connection with a local community. And again, I have a lot of connections with FPRA and just local networking, that it would be crazy not to kind of get to know me in Midwest Food Bank, because I can really kind of help you when it comes to that potential career piece, right? So there's kind of many components, but I think that is it. Am I within the hour?
You are totally within the hour. That was
Okay.
so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I really
yeah.
enjoyed learning.
And if anybody has any questions for me, whether it's now or later too, does anybody have any questions right now?
Do you mind going back to the podcast page so I can just go ahead and share that with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you find working in a nonprofit compared to a lot of the other jobs you've had, since you've had experiences in a lot of different fields and everything?
That is an easy answer for me, because I love my job right now. Midwest Food Bank, what they do, I love the diversity. I love that I'm kind of out in the community and connected with lots of people. I will tell you, and I think I said this in Miss Winton's class, hospitality management, right, or retail. My daughter will be getting a job in those industries as soon as she is aged, because you learn so much about people and how to handle people in there, which will benefit you when you go into a full-time job. Finance, it was a very different culture and world. It's a very different motivator, which just wasn't my purpose in life. So I was there for 6 years. It was great. I worked full-time while going to college full-time. So that job let me pay my way through 4 years of college here in the US. And as an international student, I had to pay double the fees, right? I didn't get any loans. So I had to work full-time while to go into school full-time. So that job was a great paying job, but extremely stressful and not where I wanted to be long-term. So after I always say 5 or 6 years, but I think it was more 7, I purposely sought out the not-for-profit sector. And like I said, I worked in New York for not-for-profit. And when I was moving down here, I purposely sought out not-for-profit, and very specifically food industry. That's where I was looking to get into. So there's a big difference in terms of the culture, and not, and just the stress level, but the motivator and what makes people happy, and kind of that office environment I found is the biggest difference. So I'm a big advocate for not-for-profits. Just again, it's a very people-centered job, right? When you're in a not-for-profit, there's a mission to it, and hopefully you're all in the same boat rowing in the same direction, or however that saying goes, right? So hopefully you have a shared vision, and therefore hopefully the kindness and the compassion is there, and that's just a very different vibe to work for, which I really enjoy.
If I can ask something, I always hate, so this is a student-run organization, so I hate to put my opinion into things when we have our speakers and that, but you were just outstanding, Kelly. I just can't say enough about the
Thank you.
comments and everything you supplied in just a short period of time. I totally agree. Kaylee's question was going to be my first question, really, was the difference in having that balance between corporate. I've worked in corporate agency and nonprofit myself, and the first class I ever taught at FGCU 11 years ago was the nonprofit PR class, which I assume that's the course for Professor Winton you came
Yeah.
into?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that. Mhm.
they must have loved you in that course because it is
He was awesome.
so much of what you talk about is what we cover in there. And again, you hammered home a lot of the things that I talk about. That said, boiling it down to the simple things. It's relationship building and storytelling.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
you did that so well in telling that emotional story about that child, bringing
Oh,
it
yeah.
home. And
It's
that's just
you can read about that on the website. But I think too, I got very lucky, right? Really fast, and I would say lucky, but I'm hoping there's some of my skill involved. Part of my role, as I mentioned, is grant writing.
yeah,
So I applied for a big grant for the Hope Packs that wasn't an organization we had any experience with. So anyway, I applied to them and I went for a full, I think a full 100K I asked for, right? 100,000, which would help thousands of students. So I just went for the big ask and I got my full ask. So now I have to implement all the things I said I was going to do, right? But that's fine. Once you've got the money, you're like, okay. But for that program, and I remember my boss texting me, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And normally I'm in bed. And he's like, hey, and again, I was only like 2 months into the job. So, he's like, oh my goodness, I think you got your grant. And I was like, because normally with a grant, you'll apply for something, but they'll bring you down and give you a percentage of it. And when I opened it up and I saw they gave me the full amount I asked for, and I really thought about, oh my goodness, like that one piece that I just worked on is going to affect all those children and making sure that they have weekend food. And then I was like, I'm in, I'm sold. I'm here for the long term. So, so
great,
it
great.
definitely is a feel good job for
Great
sure.
story.
Yeah.
Just again, I can't say enough of all the information you supplied in that short period of time. I did have a question. I don't want to hog it. I want the students to answer the questions too. But um, one of the things we talk about, not just relationship building and storytelling, but forming partnerships and alliances with others. And the reason this question comes up is I got an email this week from a student. Aside from teaching PR courses here, I teach some marketing courses in Lutger. So I love your concept about marketing and PR not being in the separate silos as well and blending in together. But I also teach a course called Foundations of Civic Engagement. And I wanted to make sure you were connected with, I'm sure with your husband working here, you probably know Justin Fitzgerald or Jessica Ray. Have you heard those names yet?
Uh, Justin and Des, from sir, what did
From our service learning department at the university. So I wanted to make sure from
Yes.
getting volunteers and that because the students have to work with that. But one of my PR students that I think a lot of the board knows, Emelise Ortiz. She's usually come to me. You guys know Emelise? Yeah. She worked with the food pantry on campus here during her foundation, that's her Foundations of Civic Engagement project. The students all have to work with a community partner. That was her community partner. But what she did was, and I love hearing these stories, when the course was in the fall, she got out of the course, but she continued to work with the food bank and formed a partnership with another food bank, Wesley, I think, and I hadn't heard of them before, Wesley Food Bank in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now working together. They're supplying more stuff for the because again, as you pointed out, with COVID, everything has changed. You guys got so much, gotten so busy. But with Harry Chapin, with the others, I just wondered how do you all kind of work together when you've got such a good cause you're all working for, and sometimes competing
Yeah.
for those donations and dollars.
Yeah,
So
you have to look at not-for-profit it's a business. It does get run like a business, right? You have a budget, you have operational costs. You are competing for potential funds out there. The unfortunate thing is there's plenty of people to feed, but we are competing for resources, right? So whether it's funds, whether it's food, Midwest Food Bank's model and value, we are 100% in on community partnerships, even with competitors, right? If you want to think of them as competitor. And they always say, everyone always says, not-for-profits always want to partner together until it comes to sharing the money, right? But that really isn't how Midwest Food Bank is. And if that means that we have to take a small portion of the pie to make sure that some competitors also get it, as long, we're all in this to feed people. I can't always say that our competitors feel the same, right? And sometimes they might not want to work with us, but part of my role is that community partnership and developing those relationships, even with competitors. And even if it's a small project that we can work on together for the bigger good, Midwest Food Bank is 100% into to making that effort as much as our competitors will. Yeah, you know, in Midwest, Southwest Florida is very overloaded with not-for-profits in general, right? There are a lot of not-for-profits out there, but you know, you each just kind of keep doing what you're doing. And honestly, another tip, whatever industry you go into, I don't know if I mentioned this, absolutely keep your eye on and follow your competition, right? You know, there's no better motivator than your competition. So follow them, get some ideas, and you want to stay ahead of them, right? So yeah, that it's like you know, Batman doesn't exist without the Joker, right? So there's that cycle of, so yeah, definitely keep your eye on your competition, whoever that is in whatever industry. But yeah, you know, we're all hopefully all putting in our effort to make a difference for hungry people.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for speaking to the group. And I do want to, I'll get your contact information, Kayla.
Yeah, I've been into a few classes to
Yes.
present. What I always like to offer up to the classes, and I did this for my old job, which worked out great, whether it's a marketing class, a business class. I like to come into the class to present, first of all, and offer up, you know, service learning or internship or community partnership project options. And then, you know, most classes have a final project, right? So if it's a marketing or a business class, to take on Midwest Food Bank, and take it from whatever the class angle is and do a project on it. So I always like to come into all the classes and present, because you never know if there's an angle that the students could really utilize.
Well, again, I don't want to hog the time, but I just want to say I teach the principles of PR class, which is the intro class for students, and I cover the 4 branches. So I've already brought a speaker in from government, a former student who's working for TLC Marketing in Bonita as an agency. I had some from LaCroix Beverage, a former student, on Wednesday. The only hole I got is nonprofit. So I would love to talk to you down the line about that. But I'm going to shut up now because this is a student-run organization, right, Kaylee? I'm not.
And we're definitely interested in setting up a volunteer opportunity. I've been meaning to reach out to you. I've been wanting to do that since you talked in Wayne's class, and I've just been so busy that I was like, I can't take anything else on. But we'll be sending you a follow-up thank you email tomorrow, and we'll see in that email if we can set up a date that a PR group could come in and do some volunteering with you.
Oh, great. I just realized that I have no lamp on in my room, and it just got really dark. I was like, I just realized that. I was like,
it's okay. Your computer screen is giving enough light.
Yeah, you can still see me.
Well.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Kelly? All right, it doesn't seem like it. Thank you so much for
you guys. Thank you for having me on. I always welcome the chance to get to know the local student population, and you know, if there's anything I can do for you guys, I'm a big supporter and advocate for young students, and any help I can give them with anything, right? So just keep me in mind. If I don't know it, I'm sure I can connect you to somebody who does know it or can help you with something.
Well, let's stay in touch, so Kelly. I definitely want to get a hold of you. Madam President, do you need to see me for anything?
If you wouldn't mind staying on just for a couple minutes.
I sure will. I sure will.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Kelly.
So much, Kelly. Really appreciate it.
Great hearing from you again.
All right. You want to go ahead and stop the recording, Alexa?
Yeah. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you, Alexa.